All right. So we started with Agile, the same thing, just like we did with waterfall projects. Any kind of platform that you see, any kind of applications that are out there. For instance, State Farm, it's not different, right? It's not anything different. Um, we still can use the Agile framework or Agile methodology in developing and shipping out, the platform, right? So we talk about State Farm. We also talk about Wells Fargo. You guys remember? We talk about Wells Fargo platform. So many things out here, but all of these things, all these feature sets and product feature sets, they were incrementally deployed. It was not all done at one time, right? So all the things you see from personal banking to small business, commercial, financial education, everything basically that you see out here, they are all incremental. There was an incremental release of these feature sets. That is what I want you guys to understand. So we talk about Agile methodology and practice. And Agile methodology is a practice that promotes continuous iteration of development and testing throughout the software development lifecycle of the project, right? So in the Agile model, both the development and testing activities are concurrent, right? Unlike the waterfall model. So we talk about this, you guys remember. And then the Agile software development, we talk about this one as well. We then hit on the Agile core values, or what we call the Agile manifesto, right? So there are 4 core Agile manifesto that we talked about: individual team interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan, right? And each one of these, we took a deep dive into some of these, manifestos. And then, popular Agile framework, Scrum versus Kanban. So Scrum and then Kanban, they are the popular frameworks within Agile methodologies that is out there. Scrum, teams commit to ship working software through a set of intervals called a sprint, right? So anytime you hear Scrum, that means the team has committed to a certain interval. So that there's a set a period of time that they want to release. Sometimes it is 3 weeks, sometimes it is 2 weeks, sometimes it is monthly. So that's what the team has agreed, and they have set the intervals to. Kanban really does not have that kind of time box iteration where we have 2 weeks, 3 weeks of release cycles, right? So Kanban team focus on reducing the time it takes to project or user story from start to finish. They do this by using a Kanban board. So continuously as work move from the board from one end to the other, then work is done. So they don't really have a set of 2 weeks interval, or maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks of release cycle, right? You guys remember this so far? All right, just like yesterday we did, let me see a yes, yes, yes. Know that you guys are following me so far. All right, go ahead. Put a yes, yes, yes in the comment. Let me know. You guys remember Kanban? You guys remember your Scrum so far? Okay, I see yes from James. Okay, from Ben. Jeffrey, Ben is okay. All right. Okay. You guys remember all this key stuff that we learned, very important. So I know some of you will start the project on Monday, and the rest will start on April 5th. It's very important that you remember all this. And then we talk about the Agile ceremonies as well. So daily stand-up meetings, product story grooming, retrospective meetings, sprint planning and kickoff, storytelling estimation, sprint review, sprint demo meeting. We talk about all these things. We talk about grooming meetings, for instance, and the reason why grooming meetings are very, very important. So as a product owner, or a business analyst, not only do you, write, user stories, yes, you are responsible for, you have ownership of the product backlog. But, in addition to having ownership of the product backlog, you also have a duty or responsibility to build and also the maintenance of the product backlog, right? You have a duty to build and also to maintain the product backlog, as well as the refinement, or what we call grooming. Grooming, the same word as refinement of the backlog. You got to make sure that your product backlog is healthy all the time, right, for the team. So you do this by bringing the stories that you write. Again, let me repeat, let me rehash, or let me re-echo on this process again, that you as a product owner, or you as the business analyst, your duty here is that you liaise with stakeholders, and usually requirement or product feature says the ideas, thoughts of the stakeholders, what they want to build or what they want to have as a platform. It will come from like a 30,000 feet. When I say 30,000 feet, that means high level, right? High level. And you have a duty, you have a responsibility and a duty to decompose this high level product feature set, bring it down to ground zero, and then begin to define different scenarios out of this high level product feature sets, or these ideas and thoughts that they have shared with you, and say, okay, what's going to be my epics from what you're talking about? I know you want this product, but what is going to be my epics? What's going to be my user stories? So you begin to define and come up with all these different scenarios that, hopefully you can translate into a format that development team can understand, and hopefully they can build, and hopefully you guys all can ship out or deploy, right? So it's very critical. So that's how it starts. And so you have a duty, after writing all these, epics and user stories and acceptance criteria and whatnot, you have a duty to bring these stories up to a grooming session. Keep in mind, there are days and times that you're going to be leading this grooming effort, right? So when you bring stories out for grooming, what are you doing? Essentially, you just want to be able to establish what we call definition of ready. By definition of ready, that means the stories are good to go to the larger audience. That means your entire development team and quality assurance team, where they can point their stories and they can estimate it and say, this story is going to be a 3-point story, it's going to be a 5-point story, it's going to be a 2-point story, right? But prior to that, before that happens, you need to be able to ascertain or get to a point where the story that you've written, there are no ambiguity, the risks, uncertainties, all those things have been fleshed out. This is very, very important, guys. Keep in mind, by the time you bring a story up to this point where the larger audience, you bring it up to the larger audience for them to point their stories and for them to estimate, right? By that time, you got to make sure that, all risks, all uncertainties, all unknowns, all those things are fleshed out. So the team, they are better. They have a great understanding of what is demanded of them with every story. And so whilst they are pointing and they are estimating, that is not the time for them to be asking questions around, some of the things that are unknown with this story, because before coming up to this point, you should flesh these stories out, properly, 100%. It's ready to go. At the same time, at the grooming session, I always tell you guys, and I've said it before, let me rehash on this point again, that, with your tech leads, you try to also bring the story up to a point where you are confident that your current state of architecture and your current state of infrastructure will be able to support the stories that are coming up in the pipeline. So keep in mind, all these ceremonies, go back to your note, go back to day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 videos. We talk about this extensively. I'm not going to talk about this in depth here, because over here, we are almost about landing, right? We are almost about getting to the tarmac where you guys will Some of you guys have even started working on the project even before we even got to this point. So it's just a quick recap of what we have done. I'm not going to go into in-depth, right? Very important. And then we talk about kind of activities. So if you look back here, daily startup meeting, product user story grooming, retrospective meeting, sprint planning and sprint kickoff meeting, storytelling, estimating, sprint review, sprint demo. How does that fit into our calendar? When does this happen, right? So for instance, I'm gonna say this one more time. I'm gonna talk about this one more time. And hopefully, if you didn't make any note, you were not writing anything, you got to put something down. So let's say we have a 2-week sprint. That starts from Monday, 1st of April, 1st of February, right? First, and it ends on the 12th. That is a Friday, as you guys can see on the calendar, right? Let me see if I can get a pen to mark here. But hopefully you guys are able to read from the calendar as well. Let me see if I can get a pen. So Monday the 1st to 12th of February. So the 12th is Friday. So that's 2 weeks, right? So it starts from here and then it ends here. Usually, typically, when a sprint starts, the Monday morning, we will have a sprint planning meeting, right? Where it's almost like a kickoff type of meeting, right? So in the kickoff meeting, we'll talk about all the stories that are in our sprint backlog. Hopefully you guys remember the difference between a sprint backlog and a product backlog. Let me see a yes to, know that you guys are with me so far. Yes. Difference between a sprint backlog and a product backlog. They are not the same. Can I see a yes? All right, come on, guys. Let's go. The difference between a sprint backlog and a product backlog. You guys get a difference, okay? Okay, who am I missing? Okay, all right. So here, you guys are talking about the sprint backlog, the items that you guys are going to work on for that particular sprint, that specific sprint. So let's say sprint 14, sprint 15. These are the set of stories that you guys are going to work on, right? So you talk about it that morning. You guys talk about, okay, this is going to be a new sprint that we are starting, sprint 15. And then this same sprint planning and kickoff meeting, this is where there's going to be story assigning as well. So the development team, they'll begin to assign the stories to themselves, and then we go. The story has started. Now you guys will also notice that we have sprint retrospective meeting, right? Again, because we have just ended a sprint. Let's say the Friday prior to this Monday morning, which is the first. That Friday is when an old sprint ended. So let's say sprint 14 ended on Friday. And this morning, Monday morning, the 1st of February, sprint 15 is just getting started, right? So what happens is that retrospective meetings, we talk about this. Retro meetings or retrospective ceremony, agile ceremony is when we look back to what we have done in the past, and we want to be able to we want to say, what are the takeaway lessons that we need to learn from the previous sprint. So by learning from previous sprint, we don't wait too long, right? We don't want to wait till like Friday the 5th before we do a retro meeting, because we want to learn the lessons and be able to take with us the lessons that we've learned, so that this new sprint we'll be able to incorporate. We'll be able to, the lessons that we've learned, we'll be able to start practicing it. So retro meetings technically happens either the Monday or Tuesday. It shouldn't go technically. If I'm leading a team, I will not schedule a retro meeting on the 3rd. I will try and put it somewhere on the 1st or 2nd, right? So maybe this same day that you start in the morning, that you have a sprint planning and kickoff, in the afternoon, somewhere 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. before the day go by, I might already put something on the calendar. That was going to be our retro meeting, right? So retro meeting where we talk about the sprint that just ended, that we've just started a new sprint, right? Or maybe Tuesday, maybe mid-morning, maybe 11 a.m. after our daily startup meeting in the morning, like 9 a.m. or something, maybe about 11 a.m. or 12 a.m. or 12 a.m., 12 p.m. or maybe 2 p.m. or something. I'll put something on this calendar, and then that's going to be our retro meeting. Because again, the idea is that we want to learn. from the past or the previous sprint? What are the things that did not go down well with us? So what can we learn from that? This is very important. So that is how it happens. Now, again, whilst this sprint has started, February 1st, we're going all the way to the 12th. Within this week or within the next week, there's going to be a grooming session of new stories. So we're always in planning mode, right? Agile is what? Continuous planning, continuous iteration of product feature set. So whilst we have started a new sprint 15, we're already on our way, developing a new feature set. Within this week, there's going to be so many things on our calendar, meetings that you guys will have to attend. And one of them is going to be maybe a grooming meeting, right? There's going to be a grooming meeting where you need to attend. There's going to be maybe like a demo session with the end user where you guys will demo to the end user what you guys have worked on and whatnot. So expect the integration of these ceremonies. That is the idea I want to talk about here. Integration of these ceremonies into the calendar of activities or the calendar of the month, right? You guys will see some of these things pop up, meetings that you get invited to, and make sure that, when you're invited, you accept the meetings as well. Okay, when you get invited to the meetings, you make sure that you accept the meetings and be part of the meeting, and then you actively, participate. So very important, guys. We talk about this. Go back to, I'm not sure what day 14 or day 11 or something video. I think you're going to see, me talk about this, properly in there. And then we talk about the process flow of the Scrum methodology. So all this Scrum thing that we are talking about, the understanding is that, number one, each iteration of a Scrum is known as a sprint. So time box, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is what we call a sprint, right? That is the name where we get a sprint from. Product backlog is a list of where all details are entered to get to the end product, right? So product backlog is like a wish list, right? It's like, the stakeholder telling you, this is what I want you guys to build. I need this, I need that, I need these items, in there, right? All those wish lists, they all can be found on the product backlog. During each sprint, top user stories of the product backlog are selected and they are turned into sprint backlog. We just, rehash on this. We just talked about this, that the difference between product backlog, sprint backlog. So out of the product backlog, we pick up some few items and then we commit to working on these items. And this is what we call the sprint backlog. Again, team works on the defined sprint backlog. That's the sprint backlog. They begin to work on it. And then what happened? Daily, we check for our work. So that's where we have the daily stand-up meetings where team members come on a call at this specific time. It can be 8 a.m. It can be 9 a.m. I know, Kofi, you have two, meetings. You have one super early in the morning, like, I don't know, is it 8 or something? And then you have another meeting as well weekly somewhere on your calendar. The team comes to check their daily work for what they have done. And then if there are any impediment, if there are any blockers, they talk about it and then they get it escalated and hopefully it's going to be resolved. All those issues are resolved. And at the end of the sprint, the team delivers a product functionality. So this is the whole idea of the Scrum methodology. Keep in mind, we've already talked about this. So as you can see over here visually, the whole idea is about plan, design, build, test, review. And then we go to the next sprint, right? Sprint 1, we go to sprint 2, the same thing. Plan, design, build, test, review. From sprint 1, we launch it, and then we go to sprint 3. So it is that loop, right? It is that loop. It's a continuous loop. It keeps on going. We plan, we design, we build, we test, we review, and then we go to the next sprint. That is all about the Agile sprint iterations. Keep in mind, guys. And then we talk about epics, right? We talk about epics. Very critical, very important. We talk about epics. What are epics? You guys can see over there, we talk about this. What are epics? We define it. We use our stories, the same thing, as the smallest unit of work in an Agile framework. Also, we talk about this. So user stories is an informal general explanation of a software feature written from the perspective of the end user, right? You guys are with me so far, right? We talk about what makes a great user stories, or the 5 set of structures or attributes that we need to see in a proper user stories. You guys get it so far, right? You guys are with me. Let me see a yes, yes, yes in there in the chat window. I know you guys are with me. Let's go. You guys remember your user stories, what we talk about when it comes to user stories. Okay. All right. Who am I missing? Okay, BB, I see you. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's roll. Type of user stories. This, I specifically gave you guys these keys here. Very important. Now, it might not be the same in every environment, but this is something that you guys can keep in mind. There are design stories, implementation stories, screen wiring stories, API integration stories, right? These are different type of stories that you can always write, and they all address different issues or different concerns, right? Or different product features in our process of Agile methodology. Very important. If you've forgotten about this, again, the videos are out there. Go back, watch it, and then write some things down. And then we talk about templates of a user story. This is very, very important, guys. This is very, 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 very important. A good user story must contain these 4 or 5 properties, right? The role, the goal, the benefit or the outcome, the description or the additional information, and then the acceptance criteria, right? You guys remember this. We talk about this. The role, so that means the user type, the user type, the role in here, the persona. We want to be able to see. You cannot just write stories and all your stories will be as a user. No, we want to be able to have the persona. Who are we talking about? Who's going to use that feature, right? So as an admin, as a user, as a financial advisor, as a lender, as an operations user member team, whatever, you got to have the persona in here. So as a role, what do you want to be able to accomplish? I want the ability to do X, A, B, C, and then the benefit or the outcome, so that, you always have to start with the benefit part, so that, again, the reason why I'm taking my time to go through this is so that you guys will get this structure internalized in you, right? I want this to be internalized, embedded in your DNA, so that you don't forget, so that I can get this done. It's very important that you have the role, the goal, the benefit out there. The only way that you guys will make a difference in your different environments is when you're writing stories, and then they'll begin to see, oh, you have all the structures in there. You setting the standard, you're setting the pace over there for the team, right? Very important. And then not all the time that you're going to have description, additional information, but acceptance criteria, you got to have it in there for your story, right? Very important. We talk about this. So, example of a user story: as a role, I want the goal, so that the expected outcome. Guys, I cannot overemphasize on this. So internalize this, keep it in mind, keep it somewhere. Let's keep rolling. So a user story must have only one goal. It's advisable to split stories with 2 goals, right? So when the stories become, okay, as a user, I want to be able to pay with Visa, and I also want to be able to pay with MasterCard. Then you know that no. Now the goal is becoming, complicated here. You begin to see 2 goals. You cannot have one story that has, PayPal as a payment in there, and also as a Visa debit card, also as a payment type in there. They are all different. So we need to split it. Very important, right? User stories must fulfill requirement with one specific goal or benefit. So you can also have a goal or expected outcome. That's it, so that I can do this, and then I can also do this as well. And then it's like, you now begin to tell us a story. No, the story becoming too much, right? You got to be specific with your goal. You got to be specific with your benefit. One benefit, one goal. That's what we need to see in there. Size of user stories measure the storage points to deliver value and complexity. Requirement of story has to be complete, functionality as well. We'll talk about this again. Go back to your revisit your notes that you have. User story grooming. The purpose or the intent of user story grooming is number 1, remove uncertainties, identify risks, identify dependencies, split up big stories to smaller stories, user story clarification, prioritization, and then must meet the inverse nature of the user story. So we talk about all these things in the past. This is the journey so far, guys. I'm not wasting time. So the inverse acronym, as you guys can see, independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, testable. So stories must what? Be testable. You cannot just have a story that's written that we don't know how to test it. We don't there's no way that the story can be, then it is not a story, right? Stories must always be what? Testable. If it's not testable, then that means it should be a tax or something else, but that must be handled by maybe a developer, a development team member, or somebody, right? But stories testable. So keep the inverse acronym also in mind that your stories, you should see some of these things in there. User story sizing technique. Okay. Again, keep this in mind. Complexity, business value, risks, amount of work dependencies. These are all the things you got to keep in mind when you're sizing a story. Acceptance criteria. This is very important, right? This is very, very, very important, guys. It's very, very, very important. So acceptance criteria, what are acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria are the conditions that a software product must satisfy to be accepted by a user, right? Conditions that the software product must satisfy. This is clear enough, right? It's not complicated here. Conditions that what a software product must satisfy. You write a story, you got to be able to put down a proper acceptance criteria. Once you get a story out there as a user, as a persona, as a role, as a whatever, the goal, the mission, and then the what or the why, which is the special outcome, you got to be able to have some preset conditions or a set of conditions or preconditions that will satisfy the story, right? You got to be able to do that. So it's very important, very, very important that you got to have those conditions that must satisfy this. What are the checklists of items that when this is done, we're gonna be able to say that okay, this is completed, right? So the customer or the stakeholder set of statements which describes users' requirement of features and functions of an application. Very, very important. So you see the feature as an end user, consider functional, non-functional, and performance criteria, clear and simple, not test combination, right? So it's very, very important. So this is like gold for you. This slide over here is gold for you for you to always remember what you need to put down under your stories as what acceptance criteria. Very important. And then we also use a SMART acronym for acceptance criteria, right? S means something specific, M is measurable, A is what achievable, R is what relevant, T is what time bound. Very important. And then here you guys get to see user story sample or template, right? So as a role, as you can see from the left top quadrant of this box here, as a role, I want the goal so that this benefit, and then you have the description, acceptance criteria. On the right side of that top quadrant, as a situation, I want a motivation so that expected outcome. Simple, right? In the left bottom quadrant, as a user type, I want a function so that the benefit. Guys, this is all just to guide you on how you get stories put out there, right? Very, very important. So as a user type, as an admin, as whatever, whatever the persona is, I want this function. I want the ability to get this done so that I can, that's the benefit. So these are all sample template to guide, to help restructure, get you grounded on how stories can be written, right? Very, very important. All right, let's keep going. Again, user story templates. So I've done a good job. I've done a good job with giving you guys so many sides to, different user story, format as a who, right? So when writing a story, that is the format again, as a who, as a role, right? So who are we talking about here? You got to put the persona in there. So as a visitor, you guys remember when we were using this, we're talking about this. I think we talk about like a restaurant or something like that, a food ordering platform or a food something. So as a visitor of this side, I want the ability to see the time slot when the table in a restaurant is available, so that why? So that I can make my reservation, right? So as a who, I want what, so that why. These are all, getting you guys, just to get you guys grounded, get you guys grounded in story writing. When you talk about agile process and agile methodology, guys, it is basically two things here. Being able to understand the methodology, the framework, the processes, ceremonies involved, that is number one. You understand agile to the core. You understand the ceremonies, what it entails, what are the kind of actors, the people that needs to be on this meeting when it's daily stand-up meeting. Just being able to understand agile processes. That is number one. Number two, when it comes to agile, it's about story writing, user stories. See, there are two things that are important when it comes to agile here. And that's what I'm telling you guys right now. The processes that are involved, we've already talked about this. And now user stories, right? Structure of user stories, the components of user story, the ingredient that's got to be in a proper story format. Very, very important. That's why almost about how many slides? About 3-4 slides. They are all talking about template. I am being deliberate with you guys, right? I'm being deliberate because I want this to sink in. I want this to sink in. Let me see in the chat box if you guys are with me so far on this story structure, because we're not going to talk about this again. Anytime you come back to me on this, I'm just going to refer you and say, go back to the videos, right? Go back to the videos. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say to you, I've spent 5 slides talking about story template and how you should write a story. Okay. All right. You guys are with me so far. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep going. All right. And then we'll talk about this, a flight booking system or flight booking platform. And we'll talk about what can we can talk about as an epic and what can be a user story. The things that are in yellow, they are all user stories. The one that are in orange is like a theme. The one in blue, that is epic, right? So login, we can have so many stories that can come under login. Searching for a flight, so many stories can come under search for a flight. So that's an epic. Choosing a flight, so many flights, options that's going to come. So that's an epic. Get discount and how to calculate a discount, all those things, epic. And then user stories can come under that. Payment details, PayPal, pay with Visa, all those things are user stories or the type of stories that can come under that. Confirm booking. Hey guys, we've talked about this. Go back to day 15 or day 16 video, and you're going to find all this information or details in there. Very important. Let's keep going. And then here too, the same thing. There are differences between the agile model and then the waterfall product delivery model as well. So here we talk about a couple of things. And you guys, I expect that you have the notes, you have things that you can point to, you can learn, go back to your notes again one more time. I'm not going to talk about all these things again. Let's keep rolling. And then we talk about interface specific analysis. I think we talked about this yesterday. Okay, I'll come back to it if we didn't talk about this. And then we talk about software testing. Next week, we're going to go deep dive. And that's going to be, we're getting to the end of our training. Next week, we're going to go deep dive into software testing. But we also highlighted some few things in our training as well. So software testing is what? Method to check whether an actual software product matches with expected requirement and to ensure that software product is defect-free, right? Essentially, all that software testing is about is that we want to be sure that the product feature that we deploy out there is what? A bug-free or defect-free. We don't want to ship product features out there for our customers to use, and then they come back complaining bitterly that the software, the app is crashing, the platform is crashing on them. Whatever they do, when they click on something, it get freeze, it get hang. There's so many issues that they're talking about. Images that on the platform are broken, pictures don't open, images cannot be viewed. There's so many things. Links are broken. When you click on one link, it's supposed, instead of the page or the link redirecting you to another page where you can get something application done. When you click on the link is not enabled, it does not work, it's broken. So there are so many issues, guys. We want to be able to avoid all this disappointment and disaster. So that is why software testing is critical and important piece or fabric of the LZLC. So that before we ship out or we deploy product software features out, it will have gone through the testing life cycle, and all bugs, defect would have already been caught, and would have fixed all these issues before we deploy. Very, very important, right? We talk about this again. Go back to, I'm not sure what day it is, but day 19, day 18 or something. Go and check out the video over there. So why software testing is very important. We talk about this. Testing the artifact. Yes. Test plan document, test strategy document. Next week, we're going to take a deep dive into this stuff, and I'm going to show you guys, because sometimes when you get assigned to a project, you're going to be also be responsible for some testing effort as well. So there's a need for me to take a deep dive on testing. So next week, that is what we'll focus on, and we'll get some ERD, entity relationship diagrams, also done. And then finally, I'll talk about some few things, and then that's it. By Friday, we're bringing our training to a closure. So next week, don't miss it, because we have some important things to talk about here. And then next week, Friday, bringing training to an end. And then Monday, April 5th, I'm starting a new batch. I have new set of people that, we're starting a new training batch as well, April 5th. I'm not going to fault you if you want to be part of that training and still learn. Hey, man, it's your call, right? But essentially, we're going to be doing the same thing that we've talked about. So April 5th, the coming Monday's week, I'm starting a new batch, new training, new set of people that already sign up, and we're starting training. So next week, don't miss this piece, because we're going to take a deep dive. I'm going to take a deep dive into all these testing artifacts, right? So test plan document, test strategy, test cases, test script, bug report, traceability metrics, certification, that's release certification. I'm going to talk about all these things next week, so don't miss it. Very important. Test case example, next week, we're going to go deep dive as well. But yes, we already talked about this as well. What are the benefits of software testing? Is here for your viewing. We already talked about this. Cost effective, security, product quality, customer satisfaction, very important. Type of testings, from functional testing, non-functional testing, maintenance, regression maintenance. Yeah, we talk about this as well. Categories of testing, manual and automation. These are the two main types of testing, right? All right. Bugs. We spend so much time on bugs. Bugs are what? An error, a flaw, a fault in a computer program system that causes it to produce an incorrect or unexpected results, or to behave in an intended way. So, like I said, I talk about the reason why testing effort or testing activity is very important, and this is why, right? You guys have it right here. All right. We talk about bug or defect cycle, very, very important. You guys can revisit your notes. And then we talk about the bug defect life cycle, process flow diagram. So this is how it flows: from new, assign, open, fixed, pending, retext, verified, and close. This is a simple structure that you guys have to keep in mind. When you're sleeping, I tap you or wake you up and say, Kofi, tell me the bug life cycle. Aben, tell bug. You got to be able to tell me that, when defect is found, it gets open, and so it's a new, and then they get assigned to a developer that fixes it. That's supposed to, open it up and fix it, right? You got to be able to tell me this process within a heartbeat, right? Without blinking. This is very easy, straightforward as well. So we talk about all these things, and then how many minutes we have? 9 minutes. All right. And then we came to change management, right? Change management is very important. Now, deliberately, I pour all these things out so that you guys will understand. You can understand all the kind of activities and meetings and all the processes, so that you will not be surprised when somebody say, change request, change something. Depending on the environment that you're in, Typically, when you're in an agile environment, you might not see a whole lot of this change management. But hey, who knows? Who knows the project that you're going to be working on? Whether it's going to be a waterfall, or it's going to be agile. So my duty or my responsibility committed to you is that I get you guys grounded and give you all the information that you guys need. Whether you are going to be in an agile, or you're going to be a waterfall, or you're going to be in a agile environment. So agile is a hybrid environment, right? Of both waterfall and then agile. So this is very important, guys. Change management, what is it about? So pretty much, we need to have a change control system or mechanism in there in our workplace, right? So that, as we are building quality, great platforms, people cannot just wake up in the morning, drink a coffee, have some goat meat and some jollof rice, not the Nigerian jollof rice, but Ghana jollof rice. When you eat it, your brain begins to work, you drink some soup, and then you come back to work and say, no, 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 no. We've taken a detour. Let's build this instead. Let's do this. Let's go through this feature. Even though that feature might be good, might be great, but we don't just want to, just go ahead and accept any kind of change anyhow, right? It's not going to happen. We need to accept change in the right format, the right process. And so there's got to be a formal process that, changes that you request, it must be approved by a steering committee or somebody, who's going to be who's going to give his concurrence or maybe provide a sign off on it and say, yes, let's go ahead with this change. So this is why change management process is important, right? We already talked about this. Let me see a yes about change management process. You guys remember it. We already talked about it. Let me see a yes in here in the chat box. You guys are with me so far. Change is great, change is good, but yes, we're not going to just let people begin to authorize changes anyhow. Every day they wake up in the morning, they come to work, they say, I want to do this change. I want to do this change. All right, you guys are with me so far. Let's keep going. And then there are 5 steps to change management process, right? We have the change request, impact analysis, approval, rejection, change implementation, review, and reporting. We already talked extensively. Impact analysis, I think I gave an example of Accra Mall, that back in the days when they built Accra Mall, there was nothing like traffic impact analysis that was done. Even if it was done, they just flaunted on the rules and they didn't do a good job essentially on the traffic impact analysis. So even up to today, I was in Ghana, so I know even today when you're coming from La Paz and it's like maybe 7 p.m., you can call it a day because you're going to be in traffic forever, right? You're going to be in traffic right from 6 p.m. Traffic is already building up. Maybe from 5 p.m. traffic is already started building up. And so it goes all the way to like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. because before traffic will begin to ease up over there at that Tatakwashi interchange. It's so bad. But every change that we want to authorize, guys, the key point here is that we want to be able to have some impact analysis of this change done. And it'll have to go through approval, go through change implementation, and then review and reporting of that change as well. While change control, we talk about this, go back to the videos, very important. Factors to that change control should consider, we talk about this as well. This process flow diagram here for change process as well. Guys, we already talk about some of these things, very important. We also talk about decision table. That was quite recently, right? Not too long ago, we talked about decision table and why they are very important, when building solutions, and especially even when testing, right? Your rules, rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4, what constitute an output, what constitute, something that's getting displayed, what constitute an error message. These are all decision-based tables to get you guys grounded. We talk about this, so very important. Revisit this video and then take note as well. And then we'll talk about, okay, next week I'm going to talk about EL modeling. Next week I've not talked about this yet, but let me go back to database. And then we got up to database. We got up towards the data. We talk about this. We talk about database, talk about types of databases, SQL, advantages, disadvantages. We talk about DDL. Right? Let me see yes in the chat box. Let's go. Talk about DDL. You guys remember? Let me see yes. Let's go, guys. Let me see. Yes. You guys remember DDL, data definition language, right? And what it is used for. Go back again. Go back to the video. Go back to W3 schools. Practice, guys. I want you guys to practice, guys. DDL, and then we'll talk about what's the next one? DML, data manipulation language, and what is useful. Again, go back to the videos. Talk about DCL, data control language statement, very important, and then TCL as well. So we'll talk about a couple of things out here, TCL, transaction, and then the other things that from next week we're going to touch on again. So we have done a great job with all these items out there. And I know some of you might be surprised. Oh, wow. So we did all of these things. Yes, you have forgotten. Go back to your videos, go back to the notes that you have, revisit all of these things that, we talk about. Next week, we get into ERs, entity relationship diagrams. Next week, we're going to take a deep dive into software testing. And then next week, I'm going to crown it all with something as well for you guys. And then by Friday, next week, Friday, we are done. Monday morning, April 5th, I'm starting a new training. And then I'm sure by that time, all of you will have started a project, all right? Inshallah. So you guys are with me so far on what we are done. Let me say yes, so that, there's a concurrence here that, yes, we've covered all these things. You guys remember everything. Let me say yes here. We have 2 minutes, and let me see if I can take some question. 2 minutes, very short, very brief. Any question, anything else that I can explain within 2 minutes. If it's going to go beyond 2 minutes, I'm just going to refer you back to the video. That go back and watch it. Right? If the explanation is going to take more than 2 minutes, I'm going to say, okay, you got to go back to the video and then watch it. All right. So
good morning. I do have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to take more than 2 minutes. I have about 3 questions, but before that, I wanted to know what time is the class on the April 5th?
Yeah, the April 5th. I'm yet to make a determination on that. More than likely, I'm going to let them, stay up at night in Ghana because I have some people that are joining from Ghana, people that are joining from here, but it's more like going to be like evening, type of session this time around. It's a good morning because my mornings I have some, like even right now I'm supposed to join a different team, a different meeting. It's not a training meeting. I've got a meeting that starts like 6 a.m. every morning, right? And so that's why every day, I need to join this meeting immediately. So I will make a determination. I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys want to join, you are free to join and just listen in. And of course, I always tell, I think my first or second batch people, I told them that anytime I speak, I'm going to be saying something very new, right? And I'm sure even going through this process, you may have heard something that is new that maybe I talk about it, but I did not say that word or something that, you've learned today, right? So, hey, you are free to join at your own will.
Okay, and also, I have a question for Kofi. Kofi, congrats, okay? And my question for you is, when you were talking, you made mention of DSD. What is that?
so Kofi, you may want to take your time and explain this, right? So it is not a process here. It is just a project, specific. So Kofi, yes, you can go ahead and explain.
She said DLC.